RAM has a lot of features that I've kind of dumped all into one little episode that I'm going to call cleverly RAM features. So the first thing I want to talk about is a unique feature of RAM known as parity versus ECC. So what I want you to do is take a look at these three sticks right here in front of me. Count the actual chips. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's flip it over this way, you can see it a little better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You see that? What you're looking at is, remember, when we talk about RAM, we always say bytes. I have 16 gigabytes. I have 1 gigabyte. I always have 32 gigabytes. We never say gigabits or anything like that because when we measure RAM, it's always in bytes. And there are 8 bits to a byte. Each one of those chips handles a bit, and that's why you pretty much always see 8 little chips on a stick of RAM. There's a few exceptions, but they're rare. So let's look down here one more time though. On this one we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hey Mike, what's happening? Well, what we're looking at right here is what we call a parity or arguably an error correction code or ECC RAM. It's still good old DRAM. It could be DDR2, DDR3, DDR4. That doesn't change anything. But these very special types of RAM add an extra chip known as a parity chip. RAM very rarely dies. Usually the only time RAM dies is when people grab it and electrocute it. If you leave RAM alone in systems, it tends to run for a long, long time. However, sometimes it's really, really important to make sure that whatever the RAM is doing is right. And this is where we start using parity or ECC RAM. Parity is a little bit older. We don't see it quite as much. Pretty much today, if you're going to be buying a motherboard that needs this type of parity, we just call it ECC or error correction code. If you want to be technical, the difference is that with parity RAM, I can have one of the other 8, one chip of the other 8 be bad. With ECC, I can have 2 of the other 8 be bad. That's about the only real difference. ECC is great. It's extremely expensive, and you can only put it on motherboards that are designed to use it. You can't sit there and go, hey, I'm going to upgrade my motherboard and put some ECC. Nope. It's has to be designed from the ground up to be able to accept ECC, or you're simply not going to be able to do it. Also, keep in mind, though, most of the motherboards that require ECC, well, they have to have it. And we tend to see it more in servers than anything else. Now, the other thing I want to show you are what we call small outline SODIMMs. What we have here are some examples of this. SODIMMs are designed in places where big long sticks don't really work the way we want them to. So laptops are probably the best example. You tend to see these all the time. Now, just because they're SO, that doesn't mean that they don't have the same different types of technologies, and I've got them right here. So here at the top, I've got a DDR4. DDR4 SODIMMs use a 260 pin package. Here's DDR3. DDR3 uses a 204 pin package. And then when it comes to anything before DDR3, it gets kind of fuzzy. So what I have here is a 200 and a 144 pin, but there is no perfect correlation of DDR2 will only use this or DDR will only use that. So it's really only for the DDR3 and DDR4 where you can absolutely predict the package. Just because they're SODIMMs, nothing that we've talked about in other RAM episodes changes. They will often use dual channel or even possibly triple channel. You have to use the exact same types. They come in pairs. Nothing changes other than the fact they're a little bit smaller. So be comfortable with SOs, and if you got a laptop, you're probably going to be seeing these guys. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about, it's actually something kind of fascinating. I don't know why I took these sticks away. Built into every RAM stick on Earth is a little bit of brains known as Serial Presence Detect, or SPD. Now, if you take a look at these 3 sticks in front of you, there is a little teeny tiny chip on every single one of these. On this one, it's right about here. On this guy, it's right about here. On this guy, it's way over in the corner. The SPD chip is an absolutely wonderful chip which allows your system to actually query the RAM chip and say, what's your capacity? How fast are you? What technology are you? Heck, it'll even tell you who made it and what's your model number based on the manufacturer. The trick with SPD is you need a tool to be able to actually query that chip, and luckily for us, the wonderful CPU ID's CPU-Z program does all this for us. Let me show you. So I've got CPU-Z already up and running. Now, if you've watched other episodes, you've seen some of the CPU stuff, but what I want to do in this case is go right over to SPD. Now, when I click on this, this tool gives me all kinds of incredible information. First of all, it tells me that there's 4 slots on this particular motherboard. And I can click through on each one of these. So here in slot number 1, I've got DDR4. It's an 8 gigabyte stick. 1,000 megabytes is a gig. It's DDR4. It's made by Kingston. I even see what my DDR speed is here. It gives me everything that I want to know. It even tells me what week and year it was made. It's absolutely amazing. Now, you might be tempted to look at all this stuff down here. Please stay away from this. This is used by overclockers to actually overclock their RAM. And unless you're overclocking, this is not an area you need to worry about. So while we're in here, there's a couple other things I like to make mention. So we'll see that in the other bank, there's a different kind of memory. It's still DDR4. It's still the same speed. It's just a different brand. Now, one of the things that would be nice, if I clicked on this and say I clicked on slot 3 and it was empty, that might be a really handy tool for me to be able to say, could I snap more RAM into this system? And while we're here, there's also this generic memory that just basically gives you a quick overview. I've got DDR4 in here. I got 32 gigabytes of DDR4. It's dual channel and it's running at 3.2 gigahertz. So we've seen a number of RAM features in this episode, but I got to tell you, I love SOs. They're absolutely fantastic. When it comes to parity and ECC, unless I'm working on a server, you're probably never going to see it. But man, oh man, serial presence detect. I can't tell you how many times it's saved me from crawling under a system, open it up just to see if I've got some RAM slots in case I wanted to add more RAM.